Hello and welcome to Exclusive here on France 24. Our exceptional guest today is the 14th Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of the Tibetan Buddhists. He won the Nobel Peace Prize exactly 25 years ago. Your Holiness, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Your Holiness, you have been advocating relentlessly for Tibet across the world, especially in the West. On the other hand, the Chinese government has been pressuring governments, world leaders, not to receive you, not to pay attention to the Tibetan cause, and it seems more and more difficult for you. In Rome, the Pope has not granted you an interview. You were recently refused a meeting by the Norwegian Prime Minister, despite having had many meetings with the West. Is it getting more and more difficult to have Western governments listen to you and meet with you?
Actually, not, because since 2001, I already semi-retired position. Then particularly 2011, I completely retired from political responsibility. So wherever I go, my main interest is meeting with the public. So the government leader, if they find okay, I'm happy. If they feel a little inconvenience, then no problem, including His Holiness Pope, no problem.
But aren't you disappointed? You praise Pope Francis. Many people praise him for his awareness of the poor, of the lost causes, and then he refuses to meet with you. I mean, frankly speaking, you must be disappointed somehow.
No, not much. Of course, a little bit curiosity. Why like that?
So why?
Others, no problem.
So what's your answer? Why do you think he has not granted you an audience?
I have no answer. You should ask Pope or his administration.
You think it's pressure from China that is also working?
I think quite obvious. There's no problem.
What about Western governments? They've received you less and less.
Recently, I was in Norway. Unlike previous meeting, the government official avoid meeting me. Perfectly all right. I have nothing to ask.
But is it all right for the Tibetan cause? Because it seems that Western governments are not...
The Western government themselves also cannot do much. Public opinion, very important. As I mentioned earlier, the preservation, promotion of human value, promotion of religious harmony, public are the most important most important. So these things, you see, government, cannot do much promotion of human value or religious harmony. Of course, some extent government can do, but mainly public, individual. Then regarding Tibet, since I completely retired political responsibility, now my main commitment is preservation of Tibetan culture of peace, culture of non-violence, culture of compassion. That I think the Chinese brothers and sisters really need that kind of culture. Look, so much was the gap, rich and poor, and immense corruption. And poor people, I met quite a number of occasions, some Chinese peasant from remote area, very difficult, the farmers, these people. So therefore, the preservation of Tibetan Buddhist culture, culture of peace, culture of compassion is very important.
The French President François Hollande, is there any plan to meet with him? He had as a host the Chinese President Xi Jinping for a major state visit a couple of months ago.
Yes.
Do you have any hopes that he will meet you, or because China is investing a lot in France right now and is putting pressure on France, do you think that, like others, he will say, well, the Dalai Lama, I'm not meeting with him because it will displease Beijing?
Any individual human being, if you keep too much hope, then greater disappointment come. So better not hope. Just whatever you see, what happened, accept that. No problem. No problem. Xi Jinping's visit when he was in France, he publicly sort of expressed Buddhism have very important role regarding preservation of Chinese culture and promotion of Chinese culture. And a similar statement, similar sort of expression in Delhi also. This is something unusual. A communist, usually we consider atheist. So the leader of the atheist party, traditionally, you see, there was, you see, many records deliberately try to eliminate the religious faith. So now there's the very party sort of had praising about Buddhism is something new, something unusual.
Would you describe it as revolutionary?
I usually say realistic. After all, culture, any country, is not newly invented, but 1,000 years that culture, you see, exists. So it helps, and that culture, any nation, any area, culture, you see, gradually or through evolution, you see, develop, not particular man-made. So therefore, culture, any culture, the concerning local people, or that people, very fit, very suitable. So therefore, the Chinese culture, I think one of the very ancient culture, is suitable to Chinese people. Like Cultural Revolution, deliberately tried to eliminate. Impossible. So now, revive very strongly China, interest about Chinese culture, including Buddhism. Very, very rapidly. Now today, according to some Chinese, I think 4 years ago, one Chinese in Peking University carries survey how many Buddhists in China. Then you see they say about over 300 millions of Buddhist population. Many of these Buddhists are educated people. It report you see mentioned that. Then the last few years, many Chinese Buddhists they told us now Buddhist population in China over 400 millions.
So do you think that the new Chinese president, you've described him as a realist, which I understand is a compliment for you, as open-minded? Just for our viewers, talks with China, official talks, have been stopped since 2010. Do you think that he is someone who is ready to discuss with Tibet about granting this genuine autonomy that you've been calling for many years? Do you think he can be the man to do this?
Well, now I should use hope. I hope so.
But are there any indications?
So there are some indications. As I mentioned earlier, see, his public sort of expression, he appreciates the Buddhists. They have the responsibility regarding preservation of Chinese culture. He publicly sort of mentioned. And then some of his close friend, also you see, he more, realistic thinking. But at the same time, among the establishment, there's a lot of hardliner thinking still there. So he himself, sometimes find difficult situation. Although outwardly, totalitarian system, the leader can decide. But the reality, unlike Mao Zedong or Deng Xiaoping, last two former president, not much active. Now this president, quite active and realistic. However, you see the old thinking, very much well trenched. So you see change, difficult. Lot of difficulties, so not easy. So we'll see.
Are there informal?
We'll see. And I always consider Chinese people very important. So whenever we have opportunity, meeting with Chinese intellectuals, writers, farmers, the Chinese peoples. I think one example. Last, I think about now 3-4 years, we noticed about 1,000 articles in Chinese language wrote by Chinese. All 1,000 articles fully support about our cause, our middle way approach, and very critical their own government policy. So these are the clear indication. Then the one Nobel Peace Prize, sort of Nobel laureate, Liu Xiaobo,
who is in jail,
still in jail, but publicly, so it was very supportive. Like him, many Chinese intellectuals openly sort of criticize the Chinese government's policy and support us.
Are there informal talks? There have been rumors in recent months that there have been discussions about you going on a pilgrimage to a sacred mountain in Tibet. You said
in China.
Yeah, in China. Sorry.
Yes.
Is this
mainland China? Yes.
Yes. Yes. Sorry. Is this still going on? Is there a hope that you might go on a pilgrimage to China, because obviously you haven't been there for many decades?
My desire, you see, so pilgrimage and some of the important Buddhist sites in China proper, and eventually including Tibet. Of course, as a Buddhist monk, I have that keen desire.
What about Beijing?
So few occasions I expressed to the Chinese government. And previously, they say, even though you see, say non-political, just simply spiritual pilgrimage, but still with name of Dalai Lama, some political implication there. They say, now I completely retired from political responsibility. So let us see. Now recently, although you say, I express this publicly, as well as some individual friends, Chinese friends. So recently, it is some mixed signal. Some officials, say favorable. Some officials say negative. So I don't know, a little bit of confusion there.
This would be obviously a major development if you were allowed to go.
Oh yes, of course. But we'll see. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, there are no indications.
So now I think basically, if I only think about Tibet, then there are a lot of factors to create disappointment. When I look humanity and religious harmony, then there is a lot of factors, give me hope and enthusiasm and want to do more. Although now my age, nearly 80 years, now time come almost now complete rest, but still I'm quite active. It's as a human being, it's our moral duty to make, no matter how small, make some contribution for a better world, happier world, healthy world.
I just want to go back to the situation in Tibet. We've seen since several years a new phenomenon, self-immolations, I believe 133. Some critics say you haven't firmly condemned them. How worried, first of all, are you by this phenomenon, and what's your judgment on this?
That's very sad, but this is very much political issue. Whatever I make comment, very easily manipulate. And then also, it also is related with the family member who still live. So it's my comment. Also, I have to sort of think very seriously. These people, one of their family member, sacrificed their own life. So this is not an easy thing, very serious matter. And under the present sort of delicate situation, best thing is kept quiet.
Do you think there is a risk of radicalization by Tibetan youth who are saying the Dalai Lama has advocated for autonomy, the Chinese are saying no, we're going nowhere, so we want independence and we want to advocate through more radical means? Are you concerned that there could be maybe violence in Tibet because the situation is blocked?
I don't think.
Why not?
There are many sort of cases, the very, very tense situation, still, you see, people kept spirit of non-violence. For example, I think in 80, I think one sort of shooting took place. Some Chinese soldiers' gun fell in front of Tibetan. They simply crush on the spot, not use. So this clearly indicates that such a tense situation, they still remember non-violence. So I have not much sort of worry. Then, yes, mainly outside Tibet, you see, among the young people, they are naturally, you see, they are very, very, very much concerned about Tibet. So you see, they too much emotion. So you see, they want, so they fight for complete independence. Sometimes they criticize our policy. But then overall, many occasions, I ask them, say, just, you see, shouting independence is not sufficient. You must sort of make plan. First step, second step, third step, fourth, fifth, like that. Never produce such sort of systematic sort of method. So then, many people feel this is just emotion. No sort of proper, realistic sort of method like that. And then, so you see, there are, I think that also, I feel, is a healthy sign. We fully committed democracy, freedom of expression, different views. It's helpful to think more. So like that, so therefore, I feel a Tibetan generally, I think particularly inside Tibet, they really committed nonviolent principle. And also, regarding middle way approach, we are not seeking independence. Many Tibetan, inside Tibet, intellectuals, students, of course, those people who have not much sort of, knowledge or wider knowledge, then just emotionally, we are independent country, like that. But those knowledgeable, sensible sort of Tibetan, I met sort of various sort of different background, some religious, some business, some party member, some officials, some intellectuals. Most of them fully support about middle way approach.
I want to ask you about your succession. You gave an interview to a German newspaper 2 months ago in which you indicated that you might be the last Dalai Lama. And so many people are wondering, what did you mean? As you say, you don't have a political role since 2011. You still have a spiritual role. So did you mean there would be no other Dalai Lama as a political leader or as both?
As you know, I already mentioned 2011. Not only I myself retired, but also almost 4-century-old tradition. Dalai Lama institution, since 5th Dalai Lama institution automatically become head of both temporal and spirituality. Now that formally, voluntarily, happily, proudly ended. Now future Dalai Lama, no political role, only through election.
So there will be a new spiritual...
So the Chinese officials, I think, more concerned about the future Dalai Lama than me. I have no concern. As early as 69, I think, I publicly sort of expressed the very institution of Dalai Lama should continue or not up to Tibetan people. If at that time, when my end come, and then around that period, you see, majority of Tibetan people feel now Dalai Lama, the few century old sort of tradition, now not much relevant, then automatically cease. I have no concern.
So what you want is Beijing not to decide the future Dalai Lama. This is your main goal right now.
Well, morally speaking, they are a non-believer. So sometimes I jokingly telling the Chinese communists, I think first they should recognize Chairman Mao Zedong's reincarnation, then Deng Xiaoping's reincarnation. Then they have certain right to concern about the Dalai Lama's reincarnation.
Right.
Otherwise, you see, illogical.
The last question I want to come to, obviously we've seen violence by Buddhist monks in Burma against the Rohingya minority. You've condemned them. Are you worried about this new trend in Buddhism, or do you think it's an isolated phenomenon?
I think isolated. I had, you see, serious discussion about this with another Nobel laureate, Aung San Suu Kyi. So, you see...
She's not been very vocal on this issue, by the way.
She now very much involved politics. So she a little bit sort of cautious, make certain comment. But actually, you see, I had a discussion with her. So this is, I think, not entire Buddhist community, same view. No, I don't think. So in any way, it is quite a serious matter. Now today, in the name of religious faith, violence take place. It's terrible. Violence, killing, for different interest or political interest or economy interest or power interest, understandable. Killing in the name of God, in the name of religion, unthinkable, unthinkable. So then some Buddhist group also now indulge, you see, harming people from different faith. Very, very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
What about Islam? You've said the beheadings that we've seen of hostages was the biggest threat against humanity. At the same time, you say we need to dialogue with those hostage takers, those terrorists.
Yeah, that's the only way. Only way. Yesterday, some Nobel laureate also is mentioned. You see, we need someone, you see, who really sort of make contact. So that's very true. See, two groups and remain distance and criticize, sometimes use, including violence, won't solve the problem. Recently in Delhi, I met some French city media. So I sort of express, as usual, these killer I described as a human brothers, sisters. Truly, these are brothers.
Even if they kill, if they behead people?
They're still human beings.
But isn't there a problem with Islam today?
No, I don't think. No. I have many close friends among the Muslim. So they say, genuine Islam practitioner should not create any bloodshed. If the person creates bloodshed, no longer genuine practitioner of Islam. And then also the very word jihad. Jihad is combat your internal destructive emotion, not harming other. So some Islam professors, I had some discussion, and some practitioner, like that. So then, like some of these who's Buddhist, there's too much emotion. Then, you see, the religion become instrument of their destructive emotion, like that.
Okay, last question, Your Holiness. Are you hoping that in your lifetime you will see a genuinely autonomous Tibet?
I think so. I think so. Things are changing. Although now my age, now, as I mentioned earlier, now nearly 80. But I think these are political matter. So political change, if the leadership or concerned people, see, they develop new realistic sort of thinking, then these things within weeks can change.
Your Holiness, thank you very much for granting us an interview here on France 24. Thank you all for watching it. Stay tuned here for more news.